Good afternoon. The Chilliwack Creative Commission is located on the traditional and unceded territory of the Stalo people. Live from Studio C, it's Chilliwack Creative Commission's Creative Third Thursdays. I was just getting ready to prompt you for that, and I didn't even have to. You're already the best group that's ever been here. Welcome. My name is Darren Blakeborough. I am a member of the Chilliwack Creative Commission. I am a media studies professor in the School of Culture, Media, and Society at the University of the Fraser Valley, and I will be your guest host this month as the inimitable Jeff Edwards is unable to host due to some prior commitments. We're using this Creative Third Thursday format in order to connect people, to build a community of creative people right here, starting in Chilliwack. Creative Third Thursdays is a monthly event, and we hold it here at Cowork Chilliwack. We record them in the amazing Studio C in Cowork Chilliwack, and our Creative Third Thursdays start at 5 o'clock. You can come early. You can mingle with one another. You can have some refreshments, meet other creative people. You can attend our live studio recording at 5:30, as you all are doing right now. And each month, we feature another creative member, another creative individual from our community. At Creative Third Thursdays, you'll find a broad demographic of creative people. All are welcome. But everybody's got to have a limit. And if you're an Edmonton Oilers fan, it's probably best if you just get up and leave right now. And don't worry, I'll get you home in time for the game, I promise. Perhaps the best of all is that in this age of inflation, Creative Third Thursday tickets are still remarkably free. So keep up to date with everything that's happening with the Chilliwack Creative Commission. See what we're doing. You can follow us on different social media with the hashtag Creative Chilliwack. And of course, as always, a huge thank you to Tim McAlpine and the crew at Cowork Chilliwack and Studio C. Now, let's meet this month's Chilliwack Creative.
Hart, a successful social media content creator, teaches baking at his Chilliwack lab, sharing his passion and impressive skills on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. From musician, guitar teacher, to baker extraordinaire, he specializes in artisan bread and Viennoiserie. Having served as a technical baker for an organic flour mill and as head baker and manager at an acclaimed artisan bread and pastry shop. His latest venture, Rise Baking Lab, combines his baking expertise and passion. He's offering specialized bakery consulting, hands-on in-person classes, and versatile online courses. Please welcome Chilliwack Creative, Mark Hart.
Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us here today.
You're welcome. I'm so happy to be here.
Have a seat. And not that far either. I didn't realize this at first, but when I was looking at your website and other things over the last week in the slate preparation that I've done for this, I noticed Harvard Place in Chilliwack. And I'm like, Cowork Chilliwack is Harvard Place. So very close.
We're 2 minutes away. We actually just parked at work. We're in the Fraser Valley printing building. So yeah, right in the cul-de-sac there. So we've been meaning to get in here and check out the studio for a long time. So
very nice.
It's good to be here.
I'm right beside my parents' old shop, Kirkpatrick's.
Yes, yeah, right in between. So yeah, it's actually a pretty great location. We've got a big roll-up door, and it kind of looks out to the mountains, and it's a nice spot to be, kind of nice and central there. So
yeah, easy in and out for people coming from Hope or Vancouver.
Yeah, we get a lot of students coming from Vancouver, so we wanted to be, close to the highway and that kind of thing. But we have students actually coming from all over the place now. We've got some, a lot of them are coming from the States now. So
really,
yeah. For our latest bigger courses that we're releasing, are mostly Americans that are signing up for them. So yeah, we get a lot of local ones for the kind of the shorter classes, but then the more advanced ones, like really people are coming from all over the place. I just talked to somebody who bought a class today from LA and from Montreal and like everywhere,
crazy.
like all over the place. Yeah, so it's coming here to Chilliwack, so it's pretty cool. Yeah. So we're doing these things like a bread camp and an advanced lamination week, where it's like week-long courses to make it worthwhile for people to come all the way out here. And then we're trying to set up some extracurricular things to do too as well, since they're here in Chilliwack, trying to set up a couple hikes and that kind of thing while they're here and help them find kind of a cool place to stay, just kind of pump Chilliwack while we're here. And it is such a beautiful place. So we're, just trying to make events that kind of go like that. But through the social media, it opens up the whole world for that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So
I'm fascinated with this idea of a bread camp.
Yeah.
Walk me through that.
So it's not really camping. It's a very intense course. So it's 8 hours a day of bread making for 5 days. The sixth day we want to do like a little brewery tour and a hike and stuff. It's kind of more of a social day. But we're going to be making hundreds and hundreds of loaves of bread. It's a really hands-on class. So each day, sourdough will take a couple days, but we're going to go, every different kind of variety of bread you can think of. And just when we have classes, people work, they make a lot. We do a bagel class. The last bagel class we did, and we made almost 400 bagels. It doesn't make sense to come to learn something and do it once or twice. Like you need to, that's the whole point of the hands-on and coming in person. Otherwise you take a digital course if you're not going to really get your hands dirty. So everything is like, we produce a lot of products. So if we're making, bagels, you get to shape a whole ton of them. So you get comfortable with it. So, yeah.
Okay, well, in the video that we were watching, what were you making that required all of those eggs?
That was actually for bagels. But that batch we were making, so what we do to make the classes work out is sometimes we'll make a big batch of dough ahead of time. And so that way the class they make their own dough and make some bagels out of it, but that's only like a dozen bagels. So we want them to have more. So we make a big batch of dough. So that was, I think, an 8-time recipe of bagels. So we're mixing that all up. And then so they come in and we mix their dough, and then they start just shaping bagels and making them. So yeah, we try to make the classes kind of work that way. So sometimes things have to be a little bit out of order because they're, to fit for our shorter classes, to fit it into the 3 hours, kind of mix it up a little bit. But we try to, we just want to have a good time. We want to have fun doing it. They're kind of just, there are actually surprisingly people that come with no intention of ever baking what we're making. We had one class where 5 people left and they didn't even want to bring the recipe home, but they loved it. They're like, "This was so good. We had the best time. This was amazing." But they were just doing it as a fun event, which sometimes we do have as well. Like we do a pasta class and then we eat some pasta, and it's fun just to do and make the pasta and eat it. But yeah, there is a bunch of people who just come just for the fun of it. Yeah.
Okay, so in the video, we also saw you teaching one of the classes.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you personally go from being a baker to a teacher of baking?
Well, I've been teaching forever. I started taking guitar lessons when I was maybe around 10 years old. And my guitar teacher and her husband owned the Ontario Conservatory of Music. And so when I was 13 or 14, I started filling in teaching at the Ontario Conservatory, and they basically, if you had a missed lesson, you'd come in and take an extra lesson. It would be with one of these extra teachers. So I started doing that when I was 14, and I taught until about 7 or 8 years ago, I taught guitar. So I've taught thousands and thousands of guitar students, and so I think that's a big foundation of why I like doing the teaching here, but it also helps me a lot because I've, through learning with so many different guitar students, that there's so many ways to learn, that, you're definitely not going to reach everybody with the same lesson. You can't just have your lesson and do it. So the way we do things at the lab is very, it's not a really rigid kind of thing that we do. And we just try to make it kind of fit for everybody. But I love teaching. I love the moment when, somebody makes whatever, they pull it out and they're like, oh my God, I just made this. We did the pie class last week and everybody pulled their pie out of the oven and they were just like, so that's what it's, that's kind of what it's all about, is just that moment. And that kind of is exciting. I love doing that. And that's something that we try to get, even in our consulting work and stuff as well. We go for a day. So somebody will hire me to, like say they want to start making croissants and they've never done laminated pastry before. So they'll hire me to come for a few days and show them the equipment and teach them the recipes and stuff. And then to have somebody, in 2 days being able to make, what I spent 15 years trying to figure out how to make, it's really exciting. I love seeing it and just love seeing people kind of get it. And I can get excited even about the very basic things, still just getting somebody gets their hand around just how to roll the bagel. I've done thousands of them, but just somebody getting it and the excitement, so I just love teaching. I've always been doing it. And so I've kind of carried it through the two different kind of careers that I've had.
How long did you teach guitar for?
Like 25 years. Oh. Yeah, I'm 43, so I taught till I was maybe 35 or something like that. And from the age of 13, I started. And it was great in high school because, I started teaching guitar and you can make more and more money than all my friends because, lessons cost more than the minimum wage was at that time. And I think, just from that, this just got me excited about teaching. Here I am teaching.
So you have other creative outlets besides just baking. Do you still get to play guitar very often?
Yeah. I went through a period. So I went to school for jazz guitar, for jazz performance, and performed for a while. I had my own band and we performed, and we moved at one point from Toronto to BC, and I kind of lost my whole music community there. I was lucky enough to be playing with all like really good studio musicians in Toronto, and I had a great band and, had lots of opportunities to perform. And then when we moved to BC, I was home with my, at the time, youngest daughter, now my middle daughter, and we were just home and we just started baking bread. And the excitement of the music had worn off a little bit, and then the excitement of the baking, came on really strong. So when we moved here, I had for a year and a half worked as an electrician, just because my wife finished grad school and her benefits then stopped. So I needed a job with benefits. So I thought, okay, I'm going to be an electrician. So I did that for a year and a half, and there are creative elements to it, but just the working in construction just wasn't my thing. So Kaylee got a professor job at UFV, and I was like, that was the last day I ever went to work. And that's really one of the only, like in my adult life, actual like sit down, or not sit down, but like job, 9-to-5 kind of job that I've had. Before this, I was working for Anita's, but I was running the whole bakery, and it wasn't your typical like 9-to-5 kind of thing. It was like setting my own schedule and doing all that kind of stuff. So I haven't had a kind of, working for somebody kind of thing for quite a long time. And I don't know, for some reason, that's just what suits me. Just kind of being able to set it all myself and stuff like that.
Okay, so what all do you have going on at Rise Baking Lab? Okay. And labs, I suppose, like an intentional, obviously, kind of intentional. Because I've always been told, and I don't know because I don't bake, and I'm scared and maybe I shouldn't be, but that cooking, you can be creative and try different things and experiment, and baking is science, where it has to be very precise.
Yeah, if you saw me bake, you would see that that's not the case because I am not precise. My partner Luis, he is very precise. Everything has to be weighed out and perfect. And I literally will just make stuff without a recipe and just throw things in. So the thing about baking is it's all just about ratios of ingredients. And once you know the basic ratios of things, you don't really need a recipe anymore for most things. So I just know how much water goes with how much flour, and how much salt will then go for that. I just kind of calculate them all out. I don't actually even have a recipe book of my own recipes. I have 0 written down recipes. We have some at the lab that they've written down for their benefit, but everything else when I go to do consulting, I don't bring a book of recipes. I just make the recipes up for them. So, but it's just all a bunch of ratios. You kind of know, like for 100 grams of flour, you want this much water and that sort of thing. But that's the way I operate. It's not scientific, although I am very interested in science and the scientific aspect of it. I kind of save that for experiments and that kind of thing. But the actual baking, I try to keep pretty loose, and I think that's how I've been able to figure out new techniques and new methods and that kind of thing. Because I'm always Luis. I'll say, "Oh, I've got an idea." Luis, he's like, "No, more ideas," because half the time they're terrible ideas, but maybe more than half the time. But then every once in a while, it's a great idea, and I'm always trying to see. This probably won't work, but what if we just threw this in there and see how it works? And for me, that's how I've learned to bake, just through endless experimenting. And what if I did this? What if I did that? Something totally random, to put in there. Let's see what happens when I put that in there, and how does that change what I'm baking? And so I think the original question, we're talking about what all happens at the lab. So we have classes. So some longer classes, some of these week-long ones, and evening classes. Most of the classes are aimed at intermediate to beginner bakers. Like, you don't have to know anything to take any of the classes. Well, there's usually 2 of us at the class too, so like we're able to kind of tailor it to specific people. If somebody's more advanced, we can give them more. Well, starting off with people that are beginners. So we do that for lessons. And then more and more, I'm doing consulting now. So I go to bakeries. I've done a bunch throughout Canada and a couple in the States. I've got one right now where I'm making, apparently, Philly cheesesteaks. There's only one really popular Philly cheesesteak place that makes their own bun. They just started making their own bun. It's a big thing. And all the other Philly cheesesteak places want to make their own buns now. And so... I've been hired by a big Philly cheesesteak place to come out and make a new bun for them. So we went and we picked all the equipment at the supplier. We tested all the recipes on it, and now they're having the equipment installed, and then I'll go down there and then we'll start doing production. So I do that kind of thing. And so half of that's remote and half of it's in person. Like, we'll set everything up over email and pick recipes and do all those sort of things. And then we have a baker working in the lab that produces all the baking for Land Cafe here in town, the one down by Sidekick. And then we make a few items also for Amble. When we started the lab, though, it was not the wholesale production lab. We weren't planning on doing any of that, but just by consequence or coincidences, we ended up filling in or we did some Christmas boxes for Land, and then they had a change of staff. They're like, "Would you guys bake for us?" And I was like, "No, I'm not going to bake for you, but we could hire somebody else to bake for you, and I'll train them how to do it." And so we have a really great baker there that does all our wholesale baking. Alexa is fantastic, and so she also does some other research and stuff for us, which is nice to have somebody there. If we have a recipe we want to test, she can pre-test it out and do that kind of thing. So those are the main things. We also have some events there, though. Like, we're having a staff retreat there. We have somebody who booked a a Christmas party there already.
Nice.
And then we're hoping to put on our own events as well. We're going to do in a week and a half, we're going to do a takeout pizza night. So we're going to make pizza and sell it like a pizza restaurant for fun. And then I also would like to do like an eat-in pizza night where we get a temporary license and we just toss out pizzas and people kind of mingle and eat pizza. It's kind of, we just wanted a space that was really cool. It's got all the tools in it. It's got all the stuff we wanted. We kind of bought all the equipment we wanted. And then, we have the space to use. And the other main thing that we do is just a lot of social media content. And we're trying to start filming some digital courses and that kind of thing. But it's just a matter of eking out the time to make that happen.
For sure.
Yeah, so that's what it is.
I got to be honest, though. I think you should probably write down your recipes because I think instantly I see this merchandising opportunity for, the Rise Baking Lab recipe book.
Oh, so we do have some. Luis will write them down. We have some on our website. There's a bunch of them that are up there for free right now. We just released a video on YouTube on braiding challah, the egg bread, the Jewish egg bread. So we released a video where we taught 3 different braids, and then we have the recipe for download on our website that you can get. So we do end up, Luis puts them down for me.
Okay. Well, you mentioned social media, and you've really utilized social media in a big way. I mean, your business and you are now approaching, 250,000 followers?
All together with the different channels. We've got about 113 on my personal, or on my Mark's Bread Instagram, and 60,000 on TikTok, and the same on YouTube. And we've had... So it happened pretty quickly that we got a big following, but over a long period of time. I've been doing that Instagram page for 10 years, and it only really took off. I mean, it was slowly growing. I had like 10,000, 15,000, but then all of a sudden it went to 100,000 in like a couple weeks because I had a video of this jiggly dough. One video, it's been viewed over 100 million times now, of just jiggly dough. And then there's another one of sourdough starter. And you shake the sourdough starter, it goes whoosh. And tens of millions of people apparently want to watch that video too. And the funny thing is you can just put that same video out again, like just refilm the same thing and put it out again, and it does just as well. So we have a few videos we know that we can kind of pump out if we need to up the ratings a little bit. But yeah, that's a whole huge part of my business. I mean, from when I started, I was just delivering bread. We would deliver it in Chilliwack and Abbotsford. I baked it at home, and my daughter and I would drive around and leave like little shoeboxes of bread on people's door everywhere. And then that spread a little through word of mouth from friends, but then I started taking photos, and then I was selling them in my backyard, and then at one point now there's like 50 people coming to pick up bread from my backyard. And it was all from, a little bit from word of mouth, but there was tons of people I didn't know just from social media. And then I opened my I built a wood-fired oven because I couldn't bake enough in my home oven. So I built a wood-fired oven, and then I could make 100 loaves in there. And so we'd have 100 people coming to the farm to pick up bread, and some as far away as Whistler. Just from social media. And now my whole business, I get people from all over the world just contacting me for either like they're coming for lessons, or they want, this is where all the consulting work comes from. But it's a huge job. Like a lot of the last year, we've been just kind of like, oh, we're doing this, let's put a video of it, because we haven't had time to make specific content. And then in the last couple of weeks, we've freed up a little bit of time, and we're again trying to make some specific content for it. And it's, it works really well, and it's great, and that's really good for business. But it's not really easy to maintain because you've got to put up your Instagram and your TikTok and your YouTube and all the different channels. They all have a different format. Some of them, your subtitles have to be different. Some of them, you have to type up the write up different. Anyways, it takes hours of doing. So keeping up with all that is difficult, but it really is kind of the core of my business.
And you can downplay it by saying 250,000 people is spread across 3 different platforms, but that's still an impressive number that almost every content creator wishes that they had. So do you have any like key takeaways? Like, I know it was almost an accident that you hit that.
Yeah, but so what you have to do if you want to get successful at creating content is create a lot of content, but then pay attention to all of the stats. As I watch a new video come in, I'll see, it's being showed to this many non-followers, this many followers. They watch for this long. They stop watching here. It's pretty complicated. It's not. You don't just post videos. It's a whole thing. So then I see, okay, this video is really popular, not just with my followers, but with other followers. So now my next video, what am I going to do? And you notice, then you realize if you voice over and put subtitles, the video does better. That's just the thing. So because most people watch with no volume on. So if there's no subtitles, they're not going to watch the video. And if you don't do a voiceover, there's nothing to subtitle. So you do a voiceover just so you can have subtitles, just so people will watch the video because they don't have the sound on. And then you just watch and you see which little things make your videos popular. And you have to crunch the numbers. You can hire people to do it as well. But I've spent quite a long time figuring it out and that. So it's just making content, seeing what's successful content, taking what you can from that and applying it to your new content. And I have now, if I make a certain type of video, I know most likely, it's going to get 15,000 views, whereas this one's going to get 50,000 views. And you kind of have a good idea of what people like. But you have to make a lot of content before you know like what it is. And it's a slow build. So we've made a new account for Rise Baking Lab, but we're only at like 8,000 people. And we've been doing it for probably 5 months. But the first 8 or 10,000 people takes a lot longer to get to, because the more followers you have, the more potential you have it doesn't get showed to all your followers. Sometimes I'll have something that'll only get shown to 1,000 of those 100 and something thousand followers. It really just has to be good content. And for a lot of people, if you have a medium-sized following and a piece of content doesn't do well, that's just probably because it's not very catchy content. What they do is they just see, are people captivated by this video? And if they're not, it's not going to do well. And then you just got to kind of figure that end of it out. But it's very important. And I tell, especially a lot of young people too, that beyond just getting a huge following, the social media is now, when somebody comes and they want to work for me, the first thing I'm going to do is find their Instagram account, especially if they want a baking position. I'm going to look and see what kind of baking they do and what kind of passion they have for it. I'm not necessarily looking for a certain level, but that's how I find out, what somebody's all about. And it applies to anything really. Having that is kind of a new kind of portfolio that you have. And so working away at it, even if you're not getting tons of followers, is important, because this is kind of where somebody can come and check you out and you want it to look good, even if it's not getting you brand sponsorship deals and that kind of thing. It's a good platform, and it's good to also use it it's been huge for me in connecting with other people. It's amazing who will reply to you on Instagram. Like if you send, not if it's, just a question that you could easily Google, but you can message most people if they actually manage their own Instagram account. Usually if it's somebody huge and they don't manage it, then they won't get back to you. But all kinds of people, I'll just message them. I'm going to Toronto. I'll want to go to whatever bakery. And I've been kind of obsessive about just meeting a lot of people and setting up meetings wherever I go out for a coffee or whatever. But people are really happy to chat with you. And if somebody posts something like some chef that I don't know, and I send a message, how did you do that? And if it's a genuine question, pretty often they get back to you, and you can speak to pretty well-known people. And I know Michael, our friend Michael Florzone, he's often just shooting off messages to film directors and stuff. And sometimes they get back to you, like pretty big names, and he's been able to connect with a couple of really big names that way, and so it's really helpful that way as well. Just in a way of it, it's virtual, but now when I go to places, if I go to a trade show or something, I know all kinds of people that I've just met online, and so it's networking, it's a portfolio, all beyond whether you have a lot of followers or not. It's just it's a tool that way, as long as you don't get sucked into just using it.
Yeah. Have you ever had any big names in the baking field slide into your DMs?
A little bit. So I have a really good friend named Matthew Duffy, and if you follow any baking, you probably follow him. He's a huge social media baking guy. And we've been friends for a really long time, but this started as well in that I was going to Toronto and I just sent him a message and said, hey, you mind if I come over and do some baking with you? And so we started baking, and he kind of showed me everything. But the funny thing about him is he knows everybody in both baking and culinary, because he was a chef and now he's a baker, and he knows absolutely everybody. So I've gotten to meet some like pretty big names in baking just from walking around with him at trade shows and stuff like that, because he kind of knows everybody. And then every once in a while you'll see, oh my gosh, this person liked my post, and it's also surprising how many of them actually run their own channels. Like there's a lot of pretty big people who are actually running their own channel, which is surprising.
You always assume that they're paying some young person.
Yeah. But there's a lot of times I go through and it's like really the owner of the whole company who's managing the and I get that because I've had other people manage before, and it's not necessarily whether they're doing a good job or not, but you've kind of got a vision of what you want it to look like, and somebody else starts control of your portfolio. You have a specific way you want it to be. So, yeah.
So I guess my last question about social media: do you find that the more effective posts are longer or shorter form videos?
You have to do each platform separately. So, like on YouTube, people have they can pay attention for a little while, so you can have a longer video. You don't have to cut out everything. On TikTok, things have to be super fast. Like we cut out every breath. Sometimes we even speed it up because you can see, at 2 seconds, people stopped watching. And why did they stop watching? Because I said, and in that amount of time, they stopped watching. So some platforms you have to cut everything out. So it's just like go, 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 go. It's all, really good content. Some platforms like YouTube, you can get away with rambling a little bit more, having a longer form. Even in the shorts, people have a bit more of an attention span on YouTube. So you have to play each different platform differently based on the kind of people they have. And also, it makes sense because you have different kinds of customers. Like, for instance, people on TikTok are never going to buy your products. People on Facebook are probably going to buy your products. People on YouTube are going to buy your courses. People on Instagram are kind of like pretty good as far as getting customers. But each platform has different people that are going to be some type of customer or follower. They're all different as well. So you got to pay attention to that.
Yeah, so the recognition that the platforms themselves are different, their audiences are different, therefore your use of them is different.
Yeah, and it's important. And that's why I've never used just one of the things that posts everything on every channel. It's nice, but you got to tweak everything so that it's the right video for the right, and even choosing music to go along with it. If it doesn't have a voiceover, you got to choose music, and that's a huge choice as well. And each platform has different rules about, you can't just put a song on and upload it. You have to use one of their songs.
You don't write and record your own?
Sometimes I do, actually. I have a couple videos, Usually my style of music is not, well, it's not just the right music. I try to fit it in when I can. But it's a whole nother thing. So it's a lot to learn, but if you do, it's just a huge opportunity to get people from really all over the world as your market.
Yeah. So what's ahead for Rise?
A lot more digital content. That's a big thing that we're wanting to do. We've got a couple of fun things that we're working on. We do consulting for the restaurant Nook in Vancouver. I don't know if you've ever been there.
Yep.
It's a pizza and pasta restaurant. They've got about 5 locations right now, but they're just heading into an expansion. And so we've done a lot of work with them. We developed a new pizza for them, the method, and helped them kind of roll that into the menu. And so we've got a lot of things kind of on the go with that restaurant that are kind of fun in the future. And a bunch of like that Philadelphia consulting jobs. So some fun things like that, but we really want to get a lot more digital content out. And obviously we love doing the in-person classes, even if we start doing a lot more digital business, then the in-person is, the fun stuff.
Nice. Well, if Mark's going to keep pumping out digital content, this is where you're going to find it. You can follow Mark on Instagram, YouTube, and on TikTok. Mark Hart, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Yeah.
Stick around. We're going to do some questions and whatnot. And thank you, everybody,
thanks for coming.
being here today. And thank you, Mark.